Hello everyone, welcome to Soccer Showdown, a show where we take you around the world and look at what it has to offer. I'm Joe Archino, and this is Martino Puccio. Martino, we're going to start off with England. Obviously, the English Premier League, it has been such a competitive start to the season so far. But we're starting with the Manchester clubs. Manchester United coming off a 4-0 thrashing defeat to Chelsea. What is the state of this club right now?
I think that's the problem. They don't know what their state is. They don't have an identity. Ever since Sir Alex Ferguson left, they've been through the third manager now, and that's Jose Mourinho, after David Moyes and Louis van Gaal. And they're coming off a Europa League win where they won 5-1 against Fenerbahce, but then they go and play their rivals Chelsea, and they get destroyed 4-0. It's actually kind of pathetic if you think about it with the Manchester United we grew up watching. They would be the ones beating Chelsea 4-0 after they came off a Europa League win. So it's kind of strange to see it, and after spending all this money with Paul Pogba and bringing in Ibrahimovic to the club, it just really hasn't worked out so far.
Well, it's not just the Manchester United club right now that is in an uncertain position. Manchester City, after a perfect start to the season, 6 wins from 6 matches, they have really faltered badly. They've come off with a draw this past weekend. They just lose to Manchester United in the League Cup. So, Martino, now let me ask you. People are now questioning Pep Guardiola's methods at City. Do they have a reason to do so?
I think they do have a reason, but I don't think they should get carried away so far because they started the season 6 for 6, which is great. But ever since that Barcelona loss in the Champions League, they kind of faltered a little bit. But it's kind of difficult because they really haven't gotten that much fresh blood into the team recently as they were spending so much money in the past. But now it's kind of like the same team. It's kind of getting older with Yaya Toure, and they're getting in Pep Guardiola after Pellegrini was there too. And you notice the parallels between the two clubs in Manchester are they keep changing managers. And they keep changing managers. There's no way to keep a continuity in the team. And that way they can't get consistent and play well enough to the standards that they want. So they're going to have to be patient because Pep is still one of the best coaches in the world. So they're just going to have to be patient at this point.
Well, Leicester City has also been a club where the fans have had to be kind of patient. They had everything in the world to celebrate last season, and they've really gotten off to a tough start in the league. In the Champions League, it's been a different story. 3 wins from their 3 matches. In the Premier League, though, they're just coming off another victory. They get a 3-1 win over Crystal Palace. Let me ask you now, with the success they've had in the Champions League, can they start to rejuvenate themselves in the Premier League?
I personally think it's going to be difficult because the problem was that it was so impressive that they won the Premier League last year was because they were a young nobody team that came up and just won the league out of nowhere with Claudio Ranieri. But the fact is they don't have enough depth to go through the week to play Champions League and then go back to the Premier League and pick up points there. It's going to be difficult, but maybe in January they might get some reinforcements with that Champions League TV money that they get, and maybe they can add a couple more guys. I mean, they lost N'Golo Kante to Chelsea, which is a huge loss, whether they have a backup for him or not. And it's just going to be a struggle from there on out, but I still think they have a good chance at making Europa League. But it's been very impressive to see them actually play so well in the group stage for the Champions League. First time there, too.
Well, now let's look forward to the weekend with the slate of matches that we have. Before that happens, though, we're going to go to the table and just give you a quick glimpse so you can see what the rankings are looking like at this point. Martino, we're starting off with Arsenal, who is taking on Sunderland. Obviously, everyone's going to have Arsenal favored in this game, but it's one of those clubs where they find themselves in the league, they bounce back nicely from their start. What does Arsene Wenger have to do to really get people to buy into his club?
I think it's a more show me instead of tell me, because how many years in a row now has Arsenal not won the league or been placed? There's always jokes about them on the internet finishing 3rd place, 2nd place. They're always just not there over the hump ever since the Golden Boys with Thierry Henry way back in the early 2000s. There really hasn't been much to it. And I understand why they're so frustrated because you're seeing a team like Leicester City winning the league last year and Arsenal's spending all of this money and they can't find a way to get over the hump and just win the Premier League. So, I mean, it's always a start when you have a goalie like Petr Cech that could actually easily win you a point or two to week, which is huge. But they really they have to execute. That's all it ever comes down to really in sports.
Well, Man United will also be looking to execute this weekend against Burnley, and let's face it, there's no one in the world who's picking Burnley to beat United. But Paul Pogba, the most expensive transfer player of all time, we've documented United's struggles. He has struggled mightily. Martino, What does Pogba have to do to get himself back?
I mean, honestly, it's sports is 90% mental and the other half is physical, as Yogi Berra would say. But at the same time, Paul has to really execute, because how many times has he really come through besides a big goal that you've just seen? It's more of like a Vine. That's what people make fun of him for just being a Vine kind of player who you just see a 2-second glimpse of just all this potential, but it's not there week to week, and that's been the problem. And no matter if you're worth 50 million, 100 million, if you're not producing week to week, people are going to get upset. And there's problems with people saying Mourinho's playing him out of position from where he normally played with Juventus. But at the same time, in my opinion, if you're a great player, you should be able to play no matter where you are, especially if you're worth $100 million as to what they paid for him.
Now, we look at another big match this weekend. Tottenham is getting Leicester, coming to their own ground. What does Tottenham have to do to continue to climb? They're in 5th place now. They got off to a good start. They've had some wins. They're not down by any means. It's a very competitive table. Can Tottenham do anything to continue to separate from everyone else?
It's the same as it always is in any league in Europe. You just got to pick up the points when you need to. And at this point, there's a lot of teams faltering, Man United and City at the top over there, and Arsenal's always a crapshoot, in my opinion. So they need to pick up the 3 points when they can, because they were very impressive last season, and they really need to ride that high that they had last year in order to continue this good run that they're on. So they need to show me, personally, 2 years in a row that they are actually meaning some business, because I mean, their track record doesn't prove so.
Now, again, another one where there's no one in the world picking West Brom over Manchester City. But Man City, again, I talked about, they started the season 6 for 6. Perfect. What do they have to do to get back to that winning formula?
I think that they need to get back to what made them so great these past few years, and that's an offensive juggernaut. Because the first year when Pellegrini was there, they were scoring goals at an incredible rate. And they really haven't been scoring all that much lately. Getting shut out 1-0 in a Champions Cup to United, when United's weakest link is their defense, is kind of disappointing, considering all the money they spend. So I think they really need to get a goal early to get them going and give them confidence throughout the rest of the game. And even a clean sheet's huge, too, because that's a bunch of confidence for the keeper. Because remember, they got rid of Joe Hart because Pep and him had some problems. So I think getting a clean sheet and scoring a goal early would be huge for them.
Well, now let's go to your bread and butter. Let's go to Italy, where you feel the most comfort. And obviously, One of the headline matches we had last weekend was AC Milan defeating Juventus 1-0. But they followed up this week with a very disappointing 3-0 win, a loss against Genoa. So let me ask you, Martino, who is AC Milan? Are they the club that beat Juventus 1-0, or are they the club that just lost to Genoa 3-0?
See, that's the thing. They're totally polar opposites. You have no idea which one it is. But you like to think that it's the Juventus team because of the way they were playing prior to the Juve game. And they were playing fantastic. But then all of a sudden, midweek, Vincenzo Montella changes the lineup. Poli starts at right back, and then Honda's the right wing instead of Suso and Abate, who was their newly named captain, but he decides to take him out. Doesn't make much sense. Then Paletta gets the red card in the early second half, and then they're down a man. Already down 1-0. And so they give up 2 goals after that, and all of a sudden they're down 3-0, and instead of tied for second place with Roma, they're now in 4th place behind Roma and Napoli. So it's going to be very difficult for them to do that. I mean, there's the new Chinese owners supposedly coming in with a $100 million transfer budget in January. If they can get some players in January, I think it'll help them out even more, because as you know, this was a midweek matchup, and he tried to rest some guys. But they didn't have the guys on the bench to come in and fill in for the starters in order to win a game like that against Genoa. And it's going to be difficult until they can buy the guys that can add to their depth and show that they are worthy of challenging Juventus for the first spot in the league.
Well, you did mention Roma back there, and I want to talk about Roma. Roma gets a big midweek win against Sassuolo 3-1. Is Roma the kind of club where, I mean, look, we've seen them very competitive finishes these last couple seasons, 2nd place currently. Are they really a threat at all to Juventus? They've given them problems, but do you think that they can challenge once again?
Jeez, no, I really don't think so, and it's not because they're not talented enough. It's the same problem with Milan. They just don't have the depth to do it, and the fact that they don't have the depth to do it, and they're playing in Europe as well, when Juve has crazy amounts of depth where they could just bring off Lichtsteiner off the bench for their right back, is better than the 25 teams in the league's right backs, most likely. So it's going to be difficult. They just lost Florenzi yesterday to a torn ACL, which is a huge, huge loss for them. And it's not even about competing with Juve. It's just trying to get into a Champions League spot. And now that Napoli, too, is another team that lost their starting striker to a torn ACL after losing Higuain to Juventus, all these teams right below Juventus are having injury problems and death problems, which is a huge gain for Juve because they could have been faltered in the middle of the week after that loss to Milan, but they come right back and they win a game like that. Although Roma did win, it's still not looking great for them after losing a player like that to injury. So it's going to be difficult.
Well, now let's go and look at the weekend a little bit. We've got your table once again just to give you a glimpse of what the league is looking like as we head into the weekend. Only one match really of noteworthiness, but that is Juventus against Napoli. Martino, last season, this was the kind of match that determined the league. This year, it still has very big implications. Who do you have winning it?
I mean, I have Juve winning this. I don't really see how Napoli can really dig this one out. I mean, I personally think after a loss like that by Juventus to a team like Milan, which they felt like they were just going to beat them, no chance at all, after 4 years of not losing to them, but after a defeat like that, people started questioning them and questioning if they're going to be good enough to win a sixth straight title. With a team like that, they're probably going to get angry about it and probably going to start going on a run, which I see them doing. So I have them winning this 2-0, 3-1. Some score like that. I really don't see Napoli being much of a challenge to them at all. It's really going to be Juve running away with the league from here on out unless another team proves me otherwise.
Bold predictions, and I love bold predictions. You know what else is bold? La Liga. La Liga has been a league in the past where we look at it, and it has been so heavily dominated by three. And a lot of times, even like last year, one of those three just goes on an incredible run and separates themselves. But this year so far, it has been a dogfight from the top five, which is something we're not used to seeing. So Martino, let me ask you, why has La Liga been so competitive in the top five this season?
I think it's a instance of teams being so great over time that a lot of the teams in the league are playing catch-up. How do they get so great? Why are they so great? Why is it just not that they're just spending money? Why is it not that it's just the great managers that they have? It's that they build up their youth from the bottom, and they get star players, and then when they play well enough, they get reinforcements in the transfer market, and they are able to compete like a team like Atletico when they were selling all those superstars, strikers for 60 million or whatever it is for Falcao, and they're bringing in guys from their youth system or from other teams in the league, so they're able to compete with them. And it's kind of like LeBron James, your guy. When you play with somebody or play against someone that great, they make you better because there's less room for mistakes, and less room for mistakes, you got to play better, and it brings out the best in you. And I think that's what teams like Barcelona, Madrid, and even Atletico at this point, you can even throw them up there with them, that they're just making the other teams in the league better because they're so great.
Hey, look, whenever I get a LeBron analogy in there, I absolutely love it.
I knew you would like that.
Another great player, though, in this league who's just gone down with a significant injury, Andres Iniesta, who has been such a big focal point for Barcelona and is one of the driving reasons why they have been able to win back-to-back La Liga titles. And it's so easy to get caught up in Messi and Suarez, but this guy really is as good as it gets. How big of a loss is this going to be for FC Barcelona? And again, like we've said, such a competitive league this season.
Yeah, I mean, that's, again, to go back to death. I know I sound like a broken record, but I think Barcelona, if one of the few teams in the world, can actually somewhat replace a guy like that. I mean, you could even drop Messi back into his position, and Messi can control a game all by himself. But the loss of Iniesta isn't just a physical and a talent thing. It's more of intangibles. He's been one of their best players in the history. And not even that, just the history of the country. He's one of the best Spanish players of all time. But the problem here is he's known for holding the ball and not letting teams take the ball away from them. And their biggest flaw is their defense. Now, if their midfield can't really hold the ball as well without him, then they might have some trouble because you saw it in the Champions League. They were faulting, giving up some goals. And they've even dropped games to teams that aren't even in their own league. in terms of talent-wise. They drop points just because their defense can't seem to handle it. But it might be a problem for them, but as long as they're not playing teams like Madrid, Atletico, or Sevilla, I think they'll be okay for the time being.
Well, now we look to the weekend, and like we've done in the past, we will give you the tables just so you can kind of get a look, get a feel for how everything is looking right now. But let's go right off the bat to Real Madrid. Real Madrid take on Alaves. And obviously, no one, again, we don't pick against these big clubs to lose, but Real Madrid, can they win this league this year without Ronaldo really being his signature self?
I think they can, but it's really just going to have to be everyone else picking up the pace. I mean, Gareth Bale, I know he's played great, but he's really got to live up to that price tag. Because I know he's playing opposite of Ronaldo, and I know Ronaldo's a million times better than he is, and that's not at his own discredit. But Gareth Bale really has to pick up the pace. I know, kind of ironic, him being one of the fastest players in the world. But it's not just him. Benzema's got to finish almost every single chance he has. The defense has got to pick it up. And Keylor Navas is a great goalkeeper in there for them. So I think they'll be okay. But, I mean, with an injury like that for Barcelona for Iniesta, it kind of helps them in a way, too. And I think Ronaldo can actually take his time because they do have enough players on that team that they could just fill his void until he is 100%.
And then now we go across to Atletico Madrid. And again, no one really cares who Atletico Madrid is playing. They're in 5th place right now. Obviously, what Diego Simeone has been able to do, what Griezmann has done, they've done a lot of good things in this league to challenge Real Madrid and Barcelona. But do they have enough to, in a league, in a year where it seems to be so competitive, can they get it done? Can they win to secure the title once again?
No, I really don't think so. I think the second time losing to the Champions League to Real Madrid has kind of gotten in their heads. It's gotten in Diego Simeone's head. I mean, and Antoine Griezmann, I mean, he missed that penalty in the final against Atletico, and then he has another rough final in the Euros. So I don't know where his head is at exactly. I don't know where the rest of the team's head is at. So it's going to be a really difficult season for them. They're in 5th place right now. And 5th place right now at this point in the season, I know we're only in October, last week of October, but it's still going to be extremely difficult for them to catch up to Barcelona or Real Madrid. Just simply, even though Iniesta's not there, even though Ronaldo's not 100%, it's still going to be very difficult because a team is made up of 11 guys. It's not just the one guy. So I'd take Real Madrid and Barcelona's 11 over Atletico's any day at this point.
And lastly, Granada will visit the Camp Nou. And we've talked about Iniesta. It's a big loss. But you still have Neymar, you still have Suarez, and you still have Messi, and that's not it with Barcelona. Let me ask you, Martino, Barcelona's had some ups and downs so far this season. Do they have more stability to stay the course and see things through than Real Madrid does in 1st place at this point?
I think it's all going to come down to both teams' attacks. And I'm going to pick the better attack, which is Barcelona. I don't think it's even close. And it's considered to be the best attack of all time in the sport itself, which is incredible. But I don't really see Barcelona dropping points against a team like Granada. I mean, you usually just like wake up in the morning if you miss the match and you just see them up 3-4-0, whether it's a Suarez hat trick, Neymar 2 goals, a Messi hat trick with 2 assists or whatever it may be. I just don't really see how Barcelona is going to lose this league. I think it is theirs to lose, even though they're not in 1st place right now. I think Madrid's slowly going to slow it down. I'm going with the narrative that they're flip-flopping each year, that Madrid plays a great year and then Barcelona plays a great year overall.
It does seem like that is the case, but that is going to do it on Soccer Showdown. You heard it here first. Martino Puccio, I'm Joe Archino. We'll see everybody next time.